feeder band that is fired up there in Polk County, and it is filled with a lot of lightning, and yes, that tornado warning.
So there you go, until 2 a.m. for Avon Park and Frostproof. Now, as I was saying, as the storm surge could be as much as 15 feet in Appalachia Bay, the storm's expected to come ashore around 8 a.m. tomorrow. Aaron, you were asking about this the last time I was in here. Tampa International Airport says it expects to reopen Thursday morning, but could stay closed longer depending on when officials can assess storm damages or if road closures prevent opening. St. Pete Clearwater will open at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Sarasota Bradenton, they're expecting that to reopen at 8 a.m. this afternoon. Sunrail in Orlando has been suspended TFN. And as far as total rainfall, we're still looking at about 3 to 5 inches of rain in Tampa Bay and much higher totals to our north. And again, a tornado warning for a section of Polk County until 2 a.m. That includes the Frostproof and Avon Park areas.
Now, I will tell you this, there is these feeder bands in the last 15 minutes. There's one going over downtown Tampa right now, and it looks like it could be on the verge of spitting out something. There's a lot of lightning around that cell right now. There's also another one right off St. Pete Beach, as we're starting to see right off the southeast side of the eye. These feeder bands are really kicking up, and you're going to see some big winds. Sarasota County right now, I just saw some wind gusts down there popping around 60 plus miles per hour. Sarasota, Bradenton, right on the county line, seems to be the heaviest concentrated pocket of that solid wind that is moving to the northeast. So that's eventually going to be up through Hillsborough County, Ruskin, Brandon, Apollo Beach, areas like that. Your wind should be picking up decisively in the next probably 30 minutes, 45 minutes.
Sounds about right.
So here we go. So it's going to get interesting for us here in the next bit. It is Reed Shepard who's keeping us in tune with Tampa Bay. You know, it's interesting, too, to hear the airport talk about not until Thursday morning at 10:30.
I'm surprised by that. Reed bet on it and lost all his money early.
Well, you know, and the thing is, because I get it, they have to have, they explain it very well. The FAA has to come in, has to inspect all the runways, make sure everything is good and there's no issues. And mainly because TIA is our biggest airport. It has the most traffic in and out. So they can't have any kind of a hiccup. It has got to be perfect. And the thing is, I didn't realize this until I watched the video a short bit ago. All the jetways get all pulled in, everything is all locked up, so nothing can get damaged. And they talk about how long it takes to put everything back in place.
Oh, I can imagine.
You've got a fraction of that with Pi over in St. Pete Clearwater. Again, you've not even got a quarter of the gates to deal with. So Tampa International is just so big, and it's only going to get bigger because we'll have another wing to open to take even more airlines. So hopefully it's not 10:30 on Thursday morning. Hopefully maybe they can get it ready by tomorrow night. But a lot of that's just going to be dependent on how quickly this storm does get out, how the winds fare and everything else. But again, some really strong feeder bands starting to affect Tampa Bay right now. Will Althoff is joining us here. Will, I know you've been really busy trying to keep a loop on things there in Tallahassee. What do you got for the latest?
You're talking about these feeder bands in the Tampa area. The first wave of nasty weather really approaching those coastal communities along Appalachia Bay up there near Tallahassee and St. Mark's, where the storm is expected to hit about 6 hours from now. High tide there about an hour away. So the water will start receding shortly, but as that storm approaches, which is some good news. But currently, storm's still moving about 16 miles per hour, but it will hit at about 20 miles per hour. So some good news is the storm will have some speed, and it's going to weaken once it hits land. They're saying, the National Hurricane Center, that it will be a Cat 1 by 8 p.m. when it's north of Savannah. So it's going to move. Of course, the storm surge is really what people are worried about. You know, you look around the cameras in Tallahassee right now, it's pretty quiet. You see some rain coming down. The wind hasn't really picked up yet. It looks okay at the moment. Might be a little false sense of security for some of those people that are paying attention to what's going on at the moment. But like I said, if you're looking at the radar right now, the yellow band is about to approach. It's going to start getting red, and that means that heavy weather is going to happen. You got tornadic activity possible, really strong winds. Even once that storm hits land and starts breaking up, they are expecting very strong extreme wind gusts, they're calling them, 50, 60, 70 miles per hour, even after the storm makes landfall. The risk of flooding, really the big one that everybody is worried about. The Wakulla-Jefferson County line to the Occoquan River, 8 to 12 feet of storm surge. Wakulla-Jefferson County line down to Yankeetown, 16 feet potential. potentially a storm surge. So they're telling anybody, and they have been for a long time, if you live along those communities, along the coast, luckily not much around St. Mark's where it's going to make landfall because there's this wildlife refuge there. So that is some good news. But even still, if you are in that area around Tallahassee, you're going to see some rain come down. But it seems like the storm itself isn't going to sit over Tallahassee like we had last year over Fort Myers Beach and Sanibel. Ian just sat there over those communities and just dumped rain and rain and rain. Luckily, the storm looks like it's going to be moving, and we're about 10 minutes away right now from the next position update. So we'll see if that storm is picking up speed. 16 miles an hour currently, about 160 miles south of Tallahassee. So,
all right, Will, thank you so very much. It's only going to get wilder from here, folks, as we start watching our friends in Tallahassee. We're going to keep giving you these updates. Just a couple of things real quick, just kind of checking on current winds. Some of the heaviest winds now are starting to move in. Sustained winds along St. Pete Beach, upwards of about 40 miles an hour. I've seen some gusts in the 50-mile-an-hour range. The winds now have started to come due out of the south. So we had a minute there where they were coming a bit southwesterly. That's going to happen later in the day. So the winds are now pushing straight up towards Pinellas County, up into Tampa Bay. So as the tide will start to go back out, as Lee Spann said, the water's not going to leave. We're not going to have that evacuation of the bay like we have with other storms when they come from other directions. That's why she said this is what compounds our tide for later today in Tampa, for Pinellas and Hillsborough County, down along Sarasota County, because when those winds come in, the bay will have never left any water. It's all going to stay there. It's going to stay where it is. So it only compounds when it gets refilled with all the extra from out in the Gulf. So that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, I'm looking at more video out of Treasure Island as we continue to see that water coming over that seawall. Right next to, I'm looking at City Hall in Treasure Island. It is windy. There is a lot of rain. So we talked about this, being a very wet event. Right now, we're seeing the effects of that, and it's only going to get worse in the Bay Area. We talked about the storm surge. We've got the tornado warning till 2 a.m. in Polk County, including Frostproof and Avon Park. So things are really serious right now, and we'll take your calls, 800-969-9352. You are the eyes and the ears out there, and currently we're on in Tallahassee as well. We're on in the Tampa Bay area and live in Tallahassee. You may be listening on 100.7 WFLA, 94.9 TNT, X101.5, 96.5 The Spear, 105.3 The Beat, and 107.1 KISS FM, and we'll have you throughout the night. We'll be with you along the way.
Yeah, and for those of you who are listening on X101.5, I do afternoons with you guys every day up there, so I know this area well. I know how frightened you are, and our whole object here is whether you live there, whether you have friends there, whether you have kids that are there as students at FSU, is to keep you plugged in with what's going on. And we do that with your help when you call in toll-free 800-969-9352. Quick bridge update. The Sunshine Skyway is the only bridge at this juncture that is closed. The Franklin, the Gandy, and the Courtney Campbell are all still open at this moment, so that's good. So free movement back and forth between Pinellas and Hillsborough is still ongoing. That may change because once we do, we've got the wind from the south, as I mentioned. So Gandy, earlier they said we already had some water starting to get up pretty close to Gandy Boulevard, there where the old Gandy Beach was. But now they've boarded all that off, so you can't get there anymore. And they were hoping, I think, to kind of keep it, keep the storm surge down a little bit in the future. But the water's already been up over that, and I'm guessing now it's going to be going up exponentially higher. So I'm going to keep watching the Gandy to see if we have an issue there with closure.
When we talk about 3 feet, 5 feet, 7 feet, whatever the storm surge we see in the Bay Area, either way, it's dangerous. But we're talking about 12 to 16 feet, which we're going to see in some points of the in some parts of the Big Bend area. And I'm seeing right now on television, it's absolutely true. Those numbers, they're not survivable. You will not, I don't care how big your house is. You're going to be in serious trouble because it's not just the rising waters, the storm surge. It's people getting to you. It's not going to happen for a while in those areas.
Now, one of the things I am seeing here, for those of you who may be listening in town and country, you've got a big stretch of Hillsborough Avenue, which is heading out and takes you eventually into Oldsmar Racetrack Road area. There is a lot of that road now that is marked as being closed. All that road is surrounded by tributaries coming off of Old Tampa Bay and in. So I'm guessing we may have some water already pushed up in those areas. If you are in that area, Palm Bay, Bayside Village, anywhere there, if you guys know this, if you can see it, let us know, because I'm seeing those closures. They start just before you emerge from Memorial onto Hillsborough to head towards Oldsmar, but there's multiple closures there that literally go all the way into the racetrack there, right by the Oldsmar Flea Market. And a lot of that road is surrounded by water. So either it's up and over, or it's getting close to being up and over. That's just one of the road closures I'm seeing right now.
Just want to remind people at 2:35, we're going to have Eric Blake from the National Hurricane Center, so we'll get the latest from Eric Blake coming up in just a little bit.
Checking the radar, as we had that tornado warning over Frostproof just a little bit ago, that is still in effect until 2 a.m., so there's still 5 minutes. That is still a really strong line of storms. Fort Myers has just had a really heavy band go through. They had an urban flood warning there in Fort Myers, east of 75. We've got a really heavy feeder band that is going through right now that is over the area I just mentioned with road closures, as reported right now on the traffic map around Town and Country, that area up through around Trinity, up near the Pasco County line. That is dumping at about 2 inches an hour of rainfall, so that can cause some quick road flooding. We've got a break along the coastline, but there's another feeder band just off of St. Pete and Clearwater. It's got some pretty good headwinds coming in. I'm seeing gusts of around 60 miles per hour, so that's going to push some more water in. So as high tide continues, you're probably going to see that right along, as you mentioned, Gulf Boulevard, all the way down to Treasure Island up through Madeira and those places right now.
Yep, that's exactly right. Seeing some in Clearwater too. Seeing that flooding in Clearwater. But yeah, if you mentioned Fort Myers. I mean, if you're living in the Fort Myers area and you see the flooding happening right now, you're thinking, again? And obviously what you dealt with Ian was so much worse, but it looked like you were going to dodge most of this, and you have. But still, to have to deal with the effects of Ian, and you're still cleaning up from that, that's got to be the worst, memories coming back to you when you're dealing with this flooding that we're seeing in Fort Myers.
No doubt about it. And some other closures, too, out near Holmes Beach. Talking Anna Maria Island, you've got a big stretch there from the Perico Island area all the way down past Cortez, down to Longboat Key. A lot of marked closures there, again, because you're out there on the barrier island. So you've got water all around you, so those have been closed, I'm sure, mainly because you are going to have flooding conditions here in the next few hours, and the road is going to go underwater.
I saw people surfing on Lido a couple hours ago.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I got to tell you, I was talking earlier about City Island, which is where a cluster of our stations used to be in Sarasota, and I was just looking at down there right now. That is all also closed completely. Lido Shores, that whole area out by Moat Marine Aquarium, which is really crazy because when I was out there on the island during that storm, this is back in the late 90s, it was me, and there were 2 people at Moat Marine who were there to stay with the animals to make sure everything was that, and the Pelican guy, the Pelican Sanctuary, which is right next door. So we were all in constant contact at that point. That was back when you had the Nextel. Remember the Nextel phones that had the two-way feature?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that was a great way for us to stay connected back then. I miss those days. It was so easy to do that.
Just a quick update. We are seeing 120 mile per hour wind up from 110, and now moving 16 miles per hour to the north, down from 17. So slowing down. Then last hour 17, slowing down, but the wind's picking up.
So that's coming in for our 2 a.m. advisory?
That is coming in for the 2 a.m. advisory.
All right, we'll have more on that in just a few minutes. It's Big Rig. It's Aaron Jacobson. We are anchoring the coverage here right through 9 a.m. this morning on our whole network of iHeart radio stations. It's Operation Stormwatch, presented by New South Windows and Doors on iHeart Radio and around the world on the iHeart Radio app.
Your pet isn't just a...